Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Mailo, and you're listening to the Physician Empowerment Podcast. At Physician Empowerment, we're focused on transforming the lives of Canadian physicians through education and finance, practice transformation, wellness, and leadership. After you've listened to today's episode, I encourage you to visit us at PhysEmpowerment.ca, that's PHYS, empowerment.ca, to learn more about the many resources we have to help you make that change in your own life, practice, and personal finances. Now on to today's episode. Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Mailo, one of the hosts of the Physician Empowerment Podcast. And today I'm very, very excited to be joined by Dr. Shawna Pandya. And before I get started in the interview, let me say a little bit about Shawna. And she is a primary care physician who practices mostly emergency medicine. And for years now, even before her career in medicine, Shawna has been pursuing space medicine with a focus as well in extreme medicine and hostile environments. And so I would love to hear from you, Shawna. And that probably isn't the full introduction. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks so much for having me on the podcast. I think this will be really fun. So for those who don't know me, a little bit about my background, I'm an explorer. I'm an aquanaut. I've been on expeditions in what we call analog environments. So that is to environments that are analogous in some way to the spaceflight environment. So I've been to the Mars desert, or I've been to the Utah desert on a Mars simulation. I've lived underwater for 5 days in an underwater.
Oh my goodness.
In a underwater habitat. There's lots to talk about. I work with a lot of space companies with applications for Earth. I work with Luxsonic Technologies, which focuses on immersive technologies, so virtual reality, augmented reality, 360 video for medical education for healthcare workers, physicians, paramedics, and more. And I also advise a company trying to put the world's first rotating partial gravity, artificial gravity space station in orbit by the end of the decade, as well as a space food company. So that's Orbital Assembly Corporation and Austere, respectively. There's a lot we could talk about. So I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah, so there is a lot we could talk about. And it's funny because, at first I was tempted to interview you about space medicine specifically, right? Because I think that's extremely exciting. I myself am a big fan, or I don't even want to say fan, but I constantly follow space exploration and all the remarkable progress we've been making throughout the world in terms of space technologies. But I really want to hear about your dreams and the meaning of dreams in our lives, because what struck me, following you on social media, Shawna, is the fact that what appears to be your dreams are very much a part of your daily reality, and that your dreams have been integrated into your career. In fact, your career is your dream. You live and work your dream. And that is so incredibly rare. And at Physician Empowerment, actually in December 2021, we were actually in Mexico talking about wellness, practice transformation. But one of the topics that we covered is dreams, and how dreams provide not only goals in our lives, it's bigger than that. Dreams provide focus and meaning in our lives. They give us a sense of the arc of our life, and they can be a source of immense personal comfort and wellness as we pursue them. So talk to us about what dreams mean in your life. Tell us about your dream journey. Like, how old were you when you decided you wanted to go on this path?
Yeah, so that my childhood journey is actually, I think, where this all starts. And I think that's, where this idea of, hey, I want to go to space comes from. But before that, it came with actually even bigger ambitions. So this is me as, a 9 or 10-year-old settling down, quote unquote, decide to pursue astronautics. And so I think this is really a good example of what it means to be limitless and not,
I love that.
Bound, by, what is possible in reality. And so to make that more concrete. So when I was 4, I was like, I want to save the world. I want to do good. And I'm going to do that by being a transformer. Like I was going to be Optimus Prime's crime fighter partner. Yeah. We do good. And then, I matured a little bit. I became 7 and I realized, oh, you can't actually be a transformer. That's just ridiculous. So I thought, okay, well, I will be a billionaire superhero, like in this Batman, Bruce Wayne kind of.
Also concept. Very reasonable.
Very reasonable. I'd matured. I'd put on some years since the age 4. And I thought, okay, well, clearly I need to do good in the world. I need to pursue this Batman persona, get lots of money and also fight crime. And then I realized that's not something you go to school for. You don't get your degree in billionaireology. So then, by the time I was 9. This was also during the 90s when Canada had sent its first ever female astronaut to space. And that was, of course, Dr. Roberta Bonder. And I looked at her and I said, okay, she's Canadian. I'm Canadian. She's female. I'm female. So now all I need to do is be a neuroscientist, physician, astronaut. Boom, done. Okay, that's my path towards astronautics. And so if you look at all of my homework from junior high, it was all about astronautics and how to get to space and just everything obsessed with human spaceflight and exploration. And then in high school, again, focusing down more, I was said, okay, I'm going to go be a neurosurgeon. I'm going to medical school. That's what I'm focusing on. So my first degree was neuroscience. And then somewhere along the way, that space dream kind of crept back in. And so by the time I was applying for medical school, I realized how insanely competitive it was. And I said, okay, I'm not guaranteed to even get an interview. I need to pick a backup plan, a contingency that even if I don't get into med school, will make me happy that I could spend the entire year, saying this is amazing. I not wishing I was somewhere else like medical school. And I'd heard of some place called the International Space University, which is in Strasbourg, France, offers a master's program. And in reality is like Starfleet Academy, where, you meet amazing students from all across the world. They abide by this international, interdisciplinary, intercultural perspective. We had 50 students, 31 countries represented. We had lawyers, engineers, future physicians, and myself. Everything we did was collaborative. And that's when I realized maybe I didn't have to choose between space or medicine. Maybe there was an intersection. That's where I really learned about what space medicine was. And so kind of tying back to your initial question, this is kind of where realizing that, hey, having these big dreams as a kid, you can actually forge a path towards them. And that's really, kind of taking what seems pie in the sky, limitless, but also maybe not necessarily attainable, becomes attainable.
So talk to us about self-acceptance of dreams and living them boldly, because I'll be honest, I'm a big dreamer. I have lots of my own dreams about what I want to do with my life, where I want to go, where I want to see, physician empowerment go. And, it took me years to live that boldly. It took me years to even speak about my dreams. And for those of you that come to our conferences, you'll hear all about it. But tell me about learning to live that boldly, learning to speak it, share it, and overcome the people that might have something negative to say, or, who aren't necessarily there to support you. Because I think that's hard when we work in, highly collaborative environments, or even just with friends and family. So talk to us about overcoming doubt.
Yeah. So, I'm a big believer in, having a plan of action, having multiple contingency plans, and also taking concrete steps to put yourself on the way. And I think Chris Hadfield actually captures this in his book perfectly when he says, when he was a kid and decided to be an astronaut, he didn't just go into his kitchen and declare it to his family because, he would have been laughed out of the kitchen. He said, okay, I'm just going to be the best student possible. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pursue a career as a fighter pilot. And so it comes down to creating an action plan of how is this going to move me forward towards my goals and my ambitions? And then also realizing that you can prepare yourself. And that also just because you're not eligible for something today doesn't mean you shouldn't keep it on your radar. And so to give you a concrete example, I knew about the Canadian Space Agency sponsored aerospace medicine elective to go down to NASA for a month and perform research related to space medicine. I knew about that since I was in grade 11, and I would compulsively check the CSA website, but you weren't eligible to even apply for it till you were final year medical school or till you were a first year resident. So, that was at least a decade off. But the nice thing about keeping an eye for these opportunities is it gives you something to reach for. Then you start putting together that ladder that gets you there. You start making yourself a competitive candidate. And so that was always in the back of my mind. And by the time it came to apply, I was had publications under my name. I had a book chapter under my name. I was very involved in Canadian space activities. And so I became one of 2 Canadians sponsored for that term to go down to NASA. So part of it is being aware of the opportunities and then working towards them as a matter of attaining your goals. And then the other part of it is rehearsal and for the hard things. And so to give you an example of like how rehearsed I've been for what I've deemed the most important things in my life, I will practice it before the real thing ever comes. And so when I was writing my MCAT, my medical college admissions test, which I'm sure the entire audience is familiar with, as we've all had to write it. My family was out of town. It was to a new part of the city I'd never been to. So as a dress rehearsal, I drove all the way to the test site, found my parking spot, figured out how long it would take me to get to the test hall, make sure I knew it was. I did all of that the day before just to make sure I knew that part of the concrete part. I applied to medical school a year before I was qualified to even apply, just so I could go through the essays, know what they asked for, have them all written. So when it came time to actually apply, I had something to draw off of. The same thing for Canadian Space Agency astronaut selection. Even the years I wasn't eligible, I went through their 50-page submission process. So I knew what they were asking for. So I knew what they were looking for. So the qualifications I didn't have, I would just go out and get them. And so there's an element of preparation and planning and action that really comes along with realizing our dreams.
I love that. Tell us about positive visualization, right? Because, it's one thing to say, oh, I have this dream on the horizon, but like positive visualization goes further in that we start to have specific stepping stones imagined or seen or written down. Talk to us about the role of positive visualization in your mind, as well as negative visualization dealing with setbacks.
Yeah. So I think we can't talk about positive visualization without negative visualization. And I call it the what if game. Anyone who practices emergency medicine will be doing this at all times, because we're constantly asking, what is the most likely diagnosis? What is the worst case scenario, best case scenario? What else could this be? And in everything we do in life, we should be asking the same, like what is most likely to happen, but how would this work? What would this look like if this was a best case scenario versus what could go wrong? And the reason that we do this, so when we talk specifically about positive visualization and we go through, for example, the exact steps to do a procedure in medicine, we're building that muscle memory by activating our supplementary motor areas. So we're kind of priming our brains to say, I'm ready to perform. But the value of going through the worst case scenarios, playing that what if game, is also saying, how am I going to react? I don't want to be caught unawares if something bad happens because I didn't plan for it. So I call it the what if game. Chris Hadfield calls it the power of negative thinking, but it's also preparing ourselves for the reality of what life is and saying that I have a plan for that as well.
I love that. Talk to us about failure or setbacks, right? Because I think that is inevitable. Yes. Anytime we are pursuing a higher goal or a dream, trying to get somewhere, we encounter failure. And again, that's another thing it took me years to embrace, was failure as a stepping stone to success. Talk to us about, failure. You don't have to share any specific stories, but how you overcome failure, how you approach it, how you learn from it, and then how you move ahead and try again.
Yeah, one of my friends, she's amazing. She's Canada's 7th female fighter pilot. And she said, if you've never failed, you're either lucky, lying, or Jesus himself. So I love that. For me, I say, if you're always winning, you're probably in the wrong league. So you have to fail because you're not really pushing your own limits if you haven't failed. And the other part of it is to realize that success and failure are two sides of the same coin. And what I mean by that is, even when we succeed, our successes aren't always pretty and perfect, that there's something that can always be improved upon. And when we fail, it's not final. There's that quote that says success is not final, failure is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to go on that counts. And that's basically saying, well, if you failed, you've only failed if you refuse to do something about it. Why not take that situation, analyze what went wrong, figure out what went right so you can reinforce that part, and then come up with a plan to address the part that didn't go so well. And in the operational world, in aviation and space, we call that the art of the debrief. Anytime we fly a zero gravity campaign, we are debriefing after every flight because we want to know what went well so we can reinforce that pattern of performance, what didn't go so well so we can share those lessons learned with the rest of the team, and also so we can change our own actions and performance patterns in what didn't go so well. And so that's why I say success and failure are two sides of the same coin, because there's always actions to be optimized.
Absolutely love that. What else do you want to share with us about your journey or about what you've learned along the way in terms of pursuing your dreams?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm just getting started. I think
Love that.
there's so much else I want to do, so many other places I want to go.
I love that because you've been at it, like dreaming for like over 20 years, right?
Yeah, I've been doing
but
this
it
my
still
whole
feels
life.
fresh. It still feels new. I really love that.
Absolutely. Every single day is like, wow, I can't believe that someone would think of me for this. That's amazing. And part of it is you can't acknowledge success without acknowledging the imposter syndrome. We all feel it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and what I've learned is it's an opportunity, it's a growth opportunity, right? Because someone, even if I don't feel ready to, be in whatever, in medical school or to be, in this position within a company or an organization, someone somewhere saw something in me that they believed I could do this. And so it's an opportunity to become better, smarter, more educated, and then also execute. So that's how I deal with the imposter syndrome. And then just realizing that you have to love every bit of the journey. There's people who say, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to study engineering, even though I hate it. I'm going to go get my operational certifications in skydiving, whatever, even though I hate it. And when they're hating every step of it, and then maybe ultimately they are medically disqualified forever from astronaut candidacy. And, they feel like they've wasted their life. And for me, it's the exact opposite. I love every aspect of what I do. And every part of the journey, that's how I work 7 days a week. That's how, I live out of a suitcase and, I'm home for maybe 3 days a month, because everything I do is absolutely fun to me. And I think that's key when realizing, if this is the path I want to pursue, is it actually the path I want to pursue? Get those data points, live it, and then figure out, is this how I envisioned it to be?
Amazing. Talk to us about the importance of mentors and surrounding yourself with people that build you up. Because I know I've certainly over the years become much more mindful of who I spend my time with in terms of sharing my dreams, working towards my dreams, because there are people that build us up in life. There are people that bring us down. Talk to us about how you seek out mentors. I would love to hear that because I bet you, well, already from what you've mentioned, it sounds like you've met some incredible people on the journey.
Yeah. So for mentors, I think mentorship, I have this view of it doesn't have to be this very formal relationship. It doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
hey, will you be my mentor? Because I think there's this unrealistic expectation that this person's going to transform you into the person you want to be. And that comes from within. And I think we don't do a good job with any type of mentorship relationship, setting those expectations that no, it's you're the one who has to set, your goals and pursue them and come armed with questions. And that's the approach I've always taken. And then the other part of it is, just realizing the social contract to pay it forward, because I wouldn't be where I am if, incredibly busy people hadn't taken time during their careers to invest in me, even though they didn't have to. And the best example I can give of that is someone I've mentioned a lot through this podcast, because the first day I ever interned at NASA Johnson Space Center, the phone rang in my office. It was off campus. I'd lost my passport. I was frazzled. So I picked up the phone and I said, I'm sorry, I have to put you on hold. And then I realized that the person on the other end of the line said, it was Lieutenant Colonel Chris Hadfield, who was training to be commander of the International Space Station. And I just put him on hold. And so the man was busy. This was 2012. He was training to command an entire space station, but he still found time to take myself and the other Canadian medical student out for coffee, answer questions about space, about flying. He has no impetus to do that. All of the Canadian astronauts, Jeremy Hansen, David Saint-Jacques, they took time to invest in us. That's amazing.
That's incredible. That's so inspiring.
Right. And that's
like what a Canadian hero.
He was amazing. I can't say enough good things about him. And so, to me, that really is a lesson in pay it forward. Like, as busy as I get, I also feel a duty to, help others, to help, answer their questions. I'm involved with, as a mentor, Space Prize Fellowships, SEDS Canada, Zenith Pathways, Women in Aerospace Medicine. Like there is a very long list that I'm sure I'm forgetting more because once upon a time I was at that stage and I definitely would be where I am if, folks hadn't taken the time from their schedules to invest in me.
Wow. What a great story. And so beautiful to talk about paying it forward, right? Because I think that enriches us immensely when we can take the time and help somebody who's on a similar journey or somewhere further down the path or coming up the path like we are. So powerful. I think that also helps renew our interest in our dreams and energize us and focus us. Wow. Shawna, I'm not gonna keep you longer because I know you're busy. Do you want to share like a book that you love that might be related to this? But that's always hard because I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't give you any prep about that ahead of time.
It's very on brand. It's the same book I've been quoting this whole
Good.
interview.
Go for it.
Chris Hadfield's An Astronaut's Guide to Earth. It's, very resonated very much with me. A lot of the lessons I've shared this hour have been from that book and also through my own lessons. So I totally recommend it.
Was that the guy that you put on hold when you were really busy? Oh, that guy. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. That's truly incredible. Love it. Okay, Shawna, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your story, sharing your journey. It is so inspiring. As I said earlier, it is rare to meet people that live their dreams so boldly and so fully. And yet dreams are maybe one of the most important things in our lives because they give us so much meaning and joy. And like you said, it's the journey that has to be savored, not just the destination.
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you so much, Shawna.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to the Physician Empowerment Podcast. If you're ready to take those next steps in transforming your practice, finances, or personal well-being, then come and join us at PhysEmpowerment.ca, PhysEmpowerment.ca, to learn more about how we can help. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would share our podcast with a colleague or friend, and head over to Apple Podcasts to give us a 5-star rating and review. If you've got feedback, questions, or suggestions for future episode topics, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to join us and be interviewed and share some of your story, we'd absolutely love that as well. Please send me an email at kmilo@PhysEmpowerment.ca. Thank you again for listening. Bye.